Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good afternoon to you, wherever you may be, however you may be listening or watching at YouTube Current Radio. It's the Ralph Bailey Show on a Thursday, 26th day of June. Chris Burnick producing the broadcast. A busy show it is. We will get into the media washing egg off of its face after the International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed what the president said boldly, that they did, in fact, obliterate the Iranian nuclear sites. We'll get into that and talk about other issues related to that. The president also had a big, beautiful bill event at the White House. We'll talk about that. I don't know if you guys have been following this story about Carmelo Anthony. No, not that Carmelo Anthony. He spells it with a K. He's 17 years old. He was accused of murder. He's now been indicted. It was a whole racial thing. I'll unpack it at the bottom of the hour. And closing arguments in the Sean Combs trial. And this is the most important day of the whole 6 weeks right here, today, where the prosecution has to explain to the jury essentially what a RICO case is, what the predicates are, and how it works. Because I don't think everybody really understands how it works. For example, the sex trafficking. I think there's a misconception that Cassie and the most recent girlfriend, who went by Jane Doe, had to put up with this their whole period with this guy. You know what I'm saying? In other words, there may have been a period at the beginning, say for years maybe, where they were enjoying it. But the bottom line is, we know through text messages and their sworn testimony that there became a time where they didn't want to do it. And no means no. Particularly for the last girlfriend, the most recent girlfriend, where they have text messages from her saying, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, that's trafficking right there. She said no. You only need one no. You don't need I've hated this from the get-go. No, they could have enjoyed it for a while and then said, I don't want to do this anymore. And through violence and coercion and bribery and extortion. Remember the $20,000 he got out of Cassie's parents because he was mad that Cassie was running around on him. So that's what the prosecution has to do today. Explain to the jury what a RICO case is, what the predicates are, and we'll unpack some of that, and I'll explain some of the charges that were taken down to streamline the explanation. It's a Thursday, so Mike Turpinson will be here. We'll talk what's going on with the city, with their budget, and maybe even get into some county stuff. We had Jeff Flores on yesterday, and he never mentioned the oil ordinance vote that they took this morning. And I almost texted him like, my brother, what's up with that? Well, I mean, just totally and it's, my responsibility. I should have known about the vote, and I should have asked him about it. But I just thought that was peculiar. Daniel Pichu will be here. We got some interesting audio. Did you get that I sent to you? The Social Security audio? Yes. There's a gentleman that said, we'll get into it with Daniel Pichu. I won't talk about it right now. And more fallout from Zoran Mamdani, the Democratic Socialist that won the Democratic primary. This is a funny story. It really, really is. Because funny and peculiar. Mamdani defeated Andrew Cuomo. That's the only person in New York he could have defeated. You know what I'm saying? Andrew Cuomo still has the stench of the sexual assault suits, the whole COVID thing. There are people in New York that think that Andrew Cuomo killed their parents or their grandparents for how he handled COVID. He is the most flawed albatross around his neck politician that there is in New York City. And then at the same time, Now Eric Adams is running as an independent. And guess what? The political, where's my, I think went over there. The political prophet is predicting, I guarantee Eric Adams wins the mayor's race. And why is it peculiar and funny? Because just as Cuomo was the only candidate Mamdani could have beaten, Mamdani is the only one Eric Adams could beat. You could dig up Ed Koch from the grave and he could beat Eric Adams. Eric Adams was a horrible man. But let me tell you something. Looking dead in the camera. I don't know much, but I do know you cannot win in New York City talking about defunding the police. I don't know much, but I do know that much. And you can't, as a Muslim, bang on Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a high number of Hebrews in New York City. And you can't raise taxes on the rich because there goes Manhattan. I'm telling you right now, Eric Adams wins that mayoral race. And why am I talking about this? Because the Democratic Party, in all their glory, love them to death. Love them to death. You know what Bernie Sanders said about this guy? Who let's go back and talk about what his platform is. He's for defunding cops, abolishing prison systems, universal health care, prohibiting state-operated hospitals from suing for medical debt, banning all guns, decriminalizing sex work, safe injection sites, safe havens for heroin addicts so they don't use bad needles, end cash bail, decriminalizing drug possession, and ending cooperation with ICE. And you know what Bernie Sanders called him? The future of the Democratic Party. Oh, let's get on our hands and knees and pray it is so. Pray it is so. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Eric Adams loses. I hope this guy becomes the mayor of New York. I hope this spreads. I hope they nominate AOC. I hope they go with this democratic socialist idea. Go right ahead, because it doesn't sell in Iowa. It doesn't sell in Michigan. It doesn't sell in Pennsylvania. It doesn't sell in any of the swing states. This is the best thing to happen to the Republican Party since B2s dropped bombs the other day. I'll tell you that. And CK, Clayton Kershaw, is three strikeouts. So I got to see the whole game. I literally was putting on my shoes when the Rockies committed the worst base running blunder I have ever seen in my life. 3-1. They bring in my boy Tanner Scott. Did you hear that? You know, I call him my boys now, my boy Tanner Scott. They bring in Scott. He gets the first guy, one out, base hit, and I'm like, oh Lord, because it's Colorado. Fly ball, and that's a 2-run home run, and it's 3-3. We're going to 10. So fly ball in the alley, guy on first, fly ball in the alley, and all of a sudden I see Paez throwing it to first base. I'm like, what are you doing? And the guy gets caught. He must have thought it was in the gap. Because who tags up? Maybe he's trying to, no, it's 3-1. It's 3-2. Maybe he's tagging up from first, trying to get second, get in scoring position. But why the hell, what are you doing? Why are you halfway on a routine fly ball? He must have thought it was in the gap. Well, anyway, Paez throws him out, double play. We win the game. CK gets the win. And did you look it up? How close is he? 2, 3 away? Yeah, you have to get 6 strikeouts. And I think they wanted to do that. He looked great. His pitch count was low, but I think Roberts wanted to pull him to let him do it at Dodger Stadium. Yeah, that's appropriate. Exactly. His kids were there. His mother and his wife was in Colorado. But yeah, Dodger Stadium's going to go berserk. And you know, just like Derek Carr, statistically, he's going to be considered the greatest Dodger pitcher ever. Just like Derek Carr, statistically is the best Raider quarterback ever. But like I said, if you needed to start somebody with Super Bowl, who are you going to go with? Kenny Stabler, Darryl LaMonica, or Derek Carr? okay? Or LaMonica. I'd go with either one of them over Derek. Sorry, I don't mean I know car fan. And same thing with Clayton. Love him to death. First ballot Hall of Famer. Great person, great human being. Did you see on Gay Pride Day, they made him wear the red, white, and blue hats with the logo? He put a religious thing, proverb on his hat. Yeah, love the guy. Love the guy. But if I need game 7, I give the ball to Sandy Koufax. Sorry. Or I might even give it to Don Drysdale. I might even give it to Don Newcomb. Because remember, CK's kryptonite is the playoffs. And nobody knows that better than Ralph Bailey. Left here one night up with money on the game on 5-0. Skipping to my Uber. Skipping and singing. 5-0. He had never, I don't think at that point he'd ever given up a 5-0 lead. I think they were playing the Cardinals. Went home skipping. Walked in my bedroom, turned on the TV. 6-5? What? Totally lost. So I can't put him up there with Sandy. Just can't. This postseason. But he looked really good. He looked really, really good. The bottom line is, when his curveball is on, he's old Clayton, you know. But when it's not, you can kill him because he's only throwing like 93 miles an hour. Isn't that crazy for me as an old man who grew up in the 70s to say only 90s? Because that's what guys were throwing in the 70s. There was Nolan, Joaquin Andahar, and I think Randy Johnson was in the 80s. I think it was just those two were the only ones throwing 100. Now everybody knows 100. Everybody's throwing 97, 98, 99. Kopech, our 7th guy, came in today and was throwing 99 miles an hour. You know, so 93 is like softball with these guys. So he's got to have his curveball. And his curveball is just so pretty. People don't realize that was Sandy Koufax's outfit too. He had a killer curveball. I mean, he was known for his fastball, but you gotta get ready for that fastball. And he would loop one in on you, and you look like an idiot. Do I seem a little hyper today? I'm working on 3 hours sleep. I can't explain it. I stayed up till like 1:30. Turned the lights off. No, I turned the lights off like 12:30. Rattled around till about 2. Just gave up at like 2. Started watching TV. Finally fell off at like 4. I woke up at like 8. So I'm working like 4 hours sleep. And when I woke up at 8, it felt like it had been like 10 minutes. I was like, what? Damn it. And I got that sleepy eye thing, and I think I'm talking fast. And I don't have any cream for our coffee. The only day this week. All right, let's get going. We got to get going. I'll tell you what the IAEA says about the Iranian strike. We'll get into that. We'll talk about Carmelo Anthony, the 17-year-old who has been indicted for murder for killing another 17-year-old. It's a huge story in Texas because of the racial factor. We'll unpack that for you. Mike Turnipseed at 4. Our money man, Daniel Petrie, at 4:30. And we got some miscellaneous stuff we'll get into in the 5. You're listening to The Ralph Bailey Show on News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN. We're streaming live at kernradio.com.
About the Declaration of Independence as we get closer to Independence Day. How important is that document to the American soul? Really important. And of course, the news of the day, because there's so many giant stories going on at one time. Man, all on the next Armstrong and Getty Show. Weekdays noon to 2 on 96 and AM 1180 KERN. Hey everybody, it's that man again. Ralph Bailey, one that adapted the network. That was funny. Coincidentally, I'm talking to you about Adaptive Network because they literally just left our studios. That's right. We've teamed up with Adaptive Network because they are the best in town when it comes to IT. And, you know, the reasons these companies make with their IT is not having a plan. Like I talked about, as a radio station, when our IT goes down, you hear nothing. So we can't just wait and say, oh, I won't call our IT guy the very next day. We have to have a plan, disaster recovery, security policies, and compliance that all
0638. That's 241-0638. Adaptive Network, your IT partner in Bakersfield, making it simple, stable, and secure.
This is a special notice to U.S. taxpayers owing $10,000 or more to the IRS. Tax Relief Advocates is urgently notifying taxpayers that tax relief initiatives are now available. Levy or wage garnishment, don't lose hope. You can now take advantage of these current relief programs to end all collections. Tax problems. Even if you have years of unfiled tax returns or are already in a payment plan, you may still qualify for significant relief. Struggling taxpayers can now get relief they need during these hard economic times. A hotline has been established by Tax Relief Advocates for you to call and see what you qualify for. They are A+ rated with the BPD and have over 1,000 5-star reviews. Don't wait. Call 800-575-7147. 800-575-7147. That's 800-575-7147. Or simply visit TRA.com.
Must qualify for enrollment. Results may vary. $5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code RADIO. 5 cents per gallon. Today, you can cash out anytime, right? You bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code RADIO.
Hey.
25 cents per gallon.
You got Caroline?
That's code RADIO.
You got Caroline Levitt?
25 cents per gallon.
Thank you.
The Armstrong and Getty Show, weekdays noon to 2 on Nicholas Strong 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN. Now, back to the Ralph Bailey Show.
842-5376, 842-KER. And you gotta give me this on consistent. Life. I'm the mush. I've established that. There's no question about that. Among others. I'm clearly the political prophet. I told you the president was going to bomb Iran. He had no choice. We would never have the opportunities that we had thanks to the Israelis. I predicted that. And when I turn on a player, he gets on fire. Let me make my case. Let me make my case. I got on Tanner Scott. I went on Facebook and asked for Kenley Jansen to come back. And since June 3rd, Tanner Scott is literally the best closer in baseball. Okay? Who else did I bag him on? Max Muncy, since June 1st, is hitting .345. Who else did I bag on? Michael Conforto had just hit back-to-back home runs in back-to-back games. I was watching the game today. I'm like, where's Mikey? Where's MC? Where's my boy? Why is he not in the lineup? He goes, I bet he hasn't gotten consecutive hits all season other than the last 2 games. And, of course, Robert sits it. You don't sit a guy who's hit 173 and then gets 2 base hits in consecutive games. I mean, I don't know. But I'm just saying, all 3 of them. So now I got a bag on Freddie. He went 1 for 10 in the Colorado series. He got a base hit today and knocked in the winning run, actually. But he's in a huge slump. The top of our lineup, this is why we're so good. The top of our lineup right now sucks. Ohtani hit a home run. It was a solo home run, but he's not hitting really well. And Freddie went from being the leader in the National League, and now he's barely hitting 300. He's like 310. And Mookie's kind of in a slump, although he got a base hit today too. But the bottom of our lineup, Muncy, my boy Mikey, worked out, and Teo are carrying the club, huh? He didn't play again today. Hit 385. No, they both should be in the line. You can have Paez. No, I guess you can't because you got to have Taylor, right? Yeah. Well, you can put Kim. No, because you need Tommy at second base. Yeah, there's no room for Kim right now. I still go with Kim over Conforto, even though he did a couple home runs. And Max Muncy hit 2 grand slams in 3 games. Just saying, once I get on again, God dang it, I don't have time to get into this. The International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed that the centrifuge of Fordo was, quote, no longer operational. And now, and this is just bad journalism. It really is, because CNN ran with this like nobody's business. I watch the news mix, so I get to watch CNN, and they ran with it every hour. They had experts on, and here's the thing about journalism that every journalist knows. The peak interest of a story is right when it breaks. That's when it's hottest. And just by nature, that's when the information is the weakest. And any good journalist knows that. And if an idiot former reporter in Bakersfield knows that, you're going to tell me that nobody in the CNN office couldn't have said, you know what, this is a preliminary assessment of the bombing. Let's hang on to it for a day. We haven't heard from the Israelis. We haven't even heard from the Iranians yet. But no, CNN was like, let's get Trump. Let's get him. Let's get him. And now they look like idiots because not only have the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, said that they wiped out the centrifuge, which enriches the uranium, but the Israelis confirmed it as well. And it's now the consensus, and they look like morons. Now the spin is, you know what the spin is today? Those trucks, they move the uranium. They move the uranium. Based on what? Based on you saw some trucks? Based on it, it's probably the smart play? It's amazing how the liberal media is willing to run down this country in order to run down Donald Trump. It really, really is. Because I bet somebody in that newsroom did say, why don't we hang on to it for a day? Because this was leaked. The president thinks it came from the Democrats, congressional Democrats. Pete Hegseth blamed the media. I hate him. He tore apart Jennifer Griffith with Fox. And she's the Pentagon reporter, and she's the best Pentagon reporter. And he blamed her and said, you're one of the worst offenders of leaking stuff and getting ahead of stories and blah, blah, blah. He's just such a jerk. He's so over his head. And he's talking to a veteran reporter like that. Shut up and go back to Fox on the weekends. Because I'm telling you, Hegseth's days are numbered. He is not going to be at the State Department. Where are we? June? By the time I turn my next birthday, August 3rd, he will not be Secretary of Defense. Guaranteed. By my birthday. Let me stretch that a little bit. Let me take it to Labor Day. By Labor Day, he'll be whacked. He's not in the room. He's not in the room. Take a quick time out. We'll come back, talk about Carmelo Anthony. No, not that Carmelo Anthony, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony. It's been a race story where, well, I'll unpack it when we come back. Then at the top of the hour, Mike Turnipseed, Current Tax, we'll talk about the city's budget, them using Measure N money once again, despite all the promises. And then Daniel Petrie at 4:30. It's TRBS on a Thursday. I'd stick around if I you.
News Talk 96.1 AM 1180 KERN.
With us on news, Dean Peters in Washington, the Senate parliamentarian has advised the Medicaid provider tax overall central to President Trump's tax cut spending bill doesn't adhere to procedural rules. It's a blow to Republicans rushing to finish the package this week. Guidance from the parliamentarian is rarely ignored, and GOP leader swiftly worked to revise the proposal. Majority Leader John Boone says we have contingency plans. The Supreme Court says states can block the country's biggest abortion provider, Planned Parenthood, from receiving Medicaid money for health services such as contraception. The 6-3. The White House says the ruling underscores President Trump's position that states should determine abortion policy. On Wall Street, down by 404 points. More details at srnews.com.
News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN. From the KERN Newsroom, your live and local news update on News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN. I'm Bill Robbins. The Bakersfield City Council has passed an $852.7 million budget in spite of criticism from residents over funding priorities, especially the large allocation for public safety. Residents complained that the budget spends 44% of its money on the police department and said that with nearly half the funds going to police, that leaves far less money for causes such as mental health, poverty, and homelessness. An accidental drowning in southwest Bakersfield leaves a 3-year-old child dead. It happened at nearly 10 p.m. June 11th on Joanne Avenue. The victim was taken to Bakersfield Memorial Hospital but passed away on June 14th. The coroner ruled the case as an accidental drowning. I'm Bill Robbins in the KERN Newsroom with news every half hour or when it breaks on News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN.
Look who's here. It's the Malgrado family from Luigi's Restaurant and Old World Delicatessen. Gino, I know everything begins with your incredible staff and your familial atmosphere.
I love what we have at Luigi's. I love everybody that works there, and they're all like family, and then our customers are like family, so it's all a great place.
And Lynette, I know your passion is the delicatessen.
What I love about it is that we have one to the restaurant. So next door is our ability to buy anything that's on our menu. Our best sellers are the coffee sauce, seasoning, fresh sliced meats and cheeses, specialty food items, and wine shop. To see plenty of sellers and all that happen at Luigi's, go to our social media at Shop Luigi's on Facebook or Luigi's Bakery.
Luigi's Restaurant and Old World Delicatessen, where friends meet.
It's the JR Show.
Everything psyched about our next guest. I've been doing my show voices ever. My show voice. This guy, Dylan. I'm aware. I'm aware. I've met enough guys that you know that I'm not alone.
The JR Show, Mondays at 2 p.m. The Clay Travis and Box Sexton Show, live 9 to noon. Now, back to the Ralph Bailey Show on News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN.
So young Carmelo Anthony is in the custody of I forget what county it is, and I didn't write it down. It's in Frisco, Texas. This was an encounter between he and Austin Metcalf, another 17-year-old. Anthony's now 18. They were at a track meet, and Anthony claimed that Metcalf came up and they got into a fight. And Carmelo Anthony had a knife, and according to Anthony, defended himself and stabbed the kid in the heart, right in the chest. And even the police believed him because the police said, hey, they interviewed him in the police car, and he said, he was all distraught. Is the guy okay? I didn't mean to kill him, but the guy was beating me up, and I had to defend myself. I had to do what I had to do. And the community rallied around this kid. And Carmelo's black, Austin Metcalf is white, and so it divided right there. The black community rallied around Anthony, insisting that, he's being indicted because he's black, or he's being accused because he's black. He just got indicted. And finally, an indictment came down, and the DA's office announced that there is video. And I've tried to tell you all, the minute you take your key out of your front door, you're on somebody's cam, whether it's your own or the neighbors across the street or businesses. I mean, the types of video we're seeing these days with phones and Ring cameras, business cameras. You know, we're seeing airplanes crash. We're seeing balloons set on fire and plummet to the ground, and see people jump out of the damn balloon. That was the most gut-wrenching video I think I've ever seen in my life. I'm talking about the balloon incident that happened I think it was in France over the weekend, where the video, I don't know if you guys have seen the video, but the balloon catches on fire and about 3 people just jumped. Just said, I'd rather die hitting the ground than burn to death. And then the whole thing just separated from the balloon and just like a torpedo went down the ground. But there's video evidence. So it seems like it's open and shut. The DA's office is saying there was no confrontation, there was no fight. They don't understand why this kid stabbed Metcalf, but according to the DA's office, he simply walked up to the kid. There were words, and he stabbed him right in the chest. And the Black community is still hanging on to hopes that, I don't know how you fight video, but it really divided this community. And now it seems like this kid, because in Texas, you're an adult at 17. So he's looking at never leaving prison again. Isn't that crazy? 17 years old, or maybe he gets paroled when he's in his 60s, when he's my age. His whole life gone. I just don't understand how people can do things like that. That it just never dawns on you, the ramifications. The guy that shot his, the story we were telling you yesterday, the guy that shot his estranged wife and her boyfriend, or a date. She was on a date. It wasn't even her boyfriend. Shot him in the face. Shot the wife in the face. Shot the boyfriend, the date, and was gunned down by police. It doesn't dawn on you the ramifications. Do you really think you're going to get away with murder in the 21st century? I just don't understand it. I really, really don't. Meantime, fun time for me. This is the most important day in the Sean Combs trial. Today is the closing arguments by the prosecution. And then the defense will get their turn, and then the prosecution gets the final say. They get a final rebuttal if needed. And I'm telling you, I'm nervous because I have gone out on a limb and said from day one, Combs is going to be found guilty of racketeering and trafficking and all the others. And I don't understand why they dropped. There's part of me that understands that they wanted to streamline the case to make it more palatable and more understandable, the RICO case for the jury. But how do they drop the kidnapping charge? You know what I'm saying? Because as I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's video of a woman trying to leave a hotel room. Am I right about that? And then Mr. Combs, draped in a towel, drags her back into the very room she was trying to escape from. Do I have that right? Is that not the very definition of kidnapping? I don't want to be here. I'm leaving. No, you're not. You're staying here. So I don't get that. But all right, if they need to break it down, and like I said at the top of the show, in terms of the human trafficking, you only need one incident. They may have enjoyed it for years, but if they got to a point where they said, and she did, the last girlfriend, not Cassie, but there are text messages that they have that Cassie said, the Jane Doe, I don't know her name, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be your side chick. I'm your side chick. You're doing this for you. This has got nothing to do with me. And boop, 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 boop. And then I heard this morning they played some audio, and I was going to try to get it, but I figured he wouldn't be able to find it. It'd be way hard to find that. But audio of Combs talking to the last girlfriend and telling her, look, he said essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but this is pretty much what he said. Look, we can get into beefs, we can get into fights and arguments and boo, 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 but you got to do your job. You got to go to the party. You got to go do. And he uses the word job. And that's what the prosecution is. And that's from his own voice. Tough to beat your own words. It really is. And that's what the prosecution had to do today. I believe they did. I'm sure they brought up the $20,000 that he extorted from Cassie's mother. I'm sure they played that video again today, the hotel video in Century City. They've got him on the prostitution deal, bringing prostitutions across the state line. That's a slam dunk. And that's a 10-year term. He's 55 years old. Even if they just get him on the one charge, he's a pariah at 62, 63 when he gets out. It's remarkable that guys can work so hard to get to where they are and are just so careless and stupid. The guns, the drugs, having other people do your bidding. Like, if you're going to commit a crime, one of the first lessons is never do it with other people. You know what I'm saying? Because somebody's going to get caught and somebody's going to say. The first person that gets caught is going to say. Because that's the person that's going to say, you the one going to jail. Not these other two. So you better, we'll give you a deal to talk. We want Combs. And that's exactly what happened. These prostitutes were like, give me immunity and I'll sing like a canary. These employees were like, give me immunity and I'll tell how I bought drugs for him under the name Frank Black. That is a criminal enterprise. That is using your organization that's supposed to be about selling hip hop records to acquire drugs, and don't forget about the baby oil and all the necessaries for the hotel nights or the freak offs or whatever you want to call it. And I just can't imagine this jury looking at all think about it. We don't realize they had to look at all, I think there were 12-minute spurts of the freak offs that they had to sit there and watch. And this is an older jury. These aren't kids. These are like parents and grandparents that had to watch this man sit in a corner watching these behemoths pummel his girlfriends. And yeah, I've heard from those in the courtroom that there are videos where it looks like Cassie and this other girl are having the grand old time. And the defense asked her about that. They asked her, we looked at that video and you look like you have a pretty good time. And she said, that's the drugs. And I just don't think a normal person sees that amount of drugs, that amount of guns, that amount of extortion, and doesn't think this guy was using this company as an enterprise to satisfy his sexual needs. I think it's an absolute slam dunk. I really do. But I'm nervous because every defense attorney that they had on Fox, CNN, all think that they didn't make the case. And that's why the defense didn't offer a defense. They didn't call a witness. And their closing statements, not the closing arguments, but their final statement to the jury before the closing arguments took 30 minutes. So they're just like, we feel confident. They didn't prove it. Now you guys got to go back there and tell us that. It could happen. I don't think so. I think he's going to jail for the rest of his born days. I really do. I think the guns, the extortion, the money, the prostitutes, the beatings. I understand why they dropped the arson case. That was the car of Kid Curry, Kid Galahad, Kid Dynamite. Did you get that at all? For the Caucasian members of our audience, in the 1970s, there was a comedy called Good Times. James J.J. Walker played Kid Dynamite. And that's, it's funny. That's why John Amos left the show. That's a true story. He thought it was belittling because they hit it like on the third episode and they got a huge laugh out of it. So Norman Lear kept it in and JJ did it every week. I'm going out tonight because I'm kidding a dynamite. And Amos thought it was degrading and boop, boop, boop. And him and Lear got into a huge argument. And he left and went off and became Kunta Kinte. He was. You look at me crazy. He was. He's Kunta Kinte in Roots. He was Gordo on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And he was Stacy Keach's gay lover on 2.5 Men. Do you remember that? You don't remember that? Oh, it was like a running episode. They had him on for a couple of things. They were living together. John Amos and Stacy Keach. And Stacy Keach was married to Charlie's girlfriend who he was going to marry. Right. And then he came out as gay and hooked up with John Amos. Remember? That is funny. Quick time out. Mr. Turnipseed is sitting in the parking lot waiting to come on at the top of the hour. We'll talk money with Daniel Petrie. I got some weird information about Social Security that I want to pass along to Mr. Petrie and get his advice on. We'll get into that. We'll talk about the mayoral race in New York and Clayton Kershaw. Looked like Clayton Kershaw this afternoon at the Dodgers sweep the Colorado Rockies 3-1. CK is now just 3 strikeouts away from 3,000. And the Dodgers are like butter. They are on a roll. We head to Kansas City tomorrow at 5. You're listening to the Ralph Bailey Show on News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN. We're streaming live at kernradio.com.
Are all over the map on that. We have the latest on our local railroad heist. I'm not kidding. And the very latest in news, traffic, and weather. It's all happening at 6 to 9 a.m. right here at News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN.
First Look with Scott Cox, 6 to 9 a.m. News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN.
Attention, Medicare beneficiaries here in Kern County. You are eligible for Medicare and looking for a doctor who listens and cares about you with minimal wait times and prompt referral authorizations. It's time you learned about QualCare IPA. QualCare IPA contracts with most Medicare Advantage health plans and provides you with access to a large network of outstanding doctors and quality hospitals right here in Kern County. Medicare Advantage health plans go beyond original Medicare benefits coverage, and understanding these coverage differences may be confusing. Call us today, 661-554-4544. Let us help you understand your healthcare options for 2025. Call today, 661-554-4544. That's 661-554-4544. Get the information you need and the coverage you deserve. For accommodations for persons with special needs and meetings, call 661-554-4544, TTY 711.
Please meet Paul Sheldon's client, Ron Dax.
Hello, Kern County. This is Ron Dax. My wife and I recently changed our health care coverage to Medicare. We were so fortunate to have found Paul Sheldon. Paul and his associates Kelly, Lynn, and Christine were indispensable in guiding us through the transition. They have comprehensive knowledge and experience in all aspects of insurance, Medicare, and the option. They listened to our questions every time we walked in the door, and they followed up very promptly with the answers we needed. With Paul's help, we made the best decisions for us. The process was painless, and we now have comprehensive medical coverage at a very affordable price. So if you were considering retirement and a change to Medicare coverage, Paul Sheldon Insurance Benefits and Planning is hands down the best place you can go.
Medicare matters. Our team has the answers. Team Paul Sheldon.
398-2298. Outlet Bus. Every day is sale day. No one can beat us, no one can touch us. You won't find better prices. Shop and compare.
Kinte.
As a kid.
Yeah, but John was Toby.
After they whipped the crap out of him. That's one of the best scenes in the whole damn miniseries. Where they're like, whoops, what's your name? Kutkite. Whoops, Kutkite. Whoops, Toby. Eddie Murphy does a great comedy bit about that. Eddie's like, man, as soon as they cracked that mofo, I'd have been like, Toby. That's funny. You should say that. Say that on the air. Baby, baby, please don't leave me, girl. Don't you go. Man, half this land. Do you understand? What are you giggling at? All right, let's hear him. So, how many viewers do you think we got? 12? Oh, yeah? Can you tell how many we got right now? I don't care. It's a radio show. It's a show. We're performing. What were you thinking about, Chris? He was until they beat the crap out of him. He turned into Toby. He was Kunta Kinte. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Like I was saying off the air for those eavesdropping on YouTube, that's one of the best scenes of the whole miniseries. When they whip John Amos and they keep asking what's his name, and he keeps saying Kunta Kinte. They whip him, Kunta Kinte. And whip him, Kunta Kinte. The beginning finally says, Toby. He loses his foot. They cut off his foot in that, as I remember. 842-5376, 842-KER. All right, do you understand how the... let me ask you a question. What was the other thing you were laughing at? Are you serious? Well, we'll put a stop to that. Damn, I can't sing anymore? We can't allow them just to hear my voice. That's cruel and unusual. I apologize. I really do. I have no idea what bad. I really do. All right, here's my dilemma. If somebody invites you to a formal dinner, like an event dinner, do you assume that's a +1? And if you do assume it's a +1, and if it's not a +1, is it rude to request to say, hey, can I bring somebody? Is that rude, or should I just be happy that I got invited? Professional. Yes. But it's like they have a table, so they only have X amount of seats. You know what I'm saying? You buy a table of 8, and if they've given me the 1 seat that's left, I show up with a date, I'm in bad shape. And is it rude to ask? Or do I just say, screw it, just come by myself? Yeah, they would ask. There's a situation brewing. That's all I can say right now. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. There's a situation brewing. That would be nice to be able to. I was going to invite her to the thing Saturday, the Battle of the Bartenders, but we're working and she'd be by herself. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm going to look ridiculous in that black shirt. I want to see me in that black shirt. I mean, it's nice. Jen Bowden, we all have the same shirts. Oh, Lord. Mark Swain, let's see what he's talking about. Oh, he sent me something. I
put it up. Please stand by. It's okay to open. Okay. Tee It Up America. I don't know what the same at least something here. This experience app. Tee Up America. I don't know what is this? I'll look it up later. I don't know what the hell he sent me. Huh? No, it's a golf thing. Tee It Up America. 2025 flyer with I don't know. Get this best experience in this app. I'll open that later.
What do you got on board? Anything before we get Charm Seat in here? What do you got? Greatest Raider quarterback? He definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. There's no question about that. He's probably the only quarterback that's won 2 Super Bowls that's not, and was a first-round draft pick with the New England Patriots, won the Heisman Trophy at Stanford, and it's not in the Hall of Fame. Makes no sense. Just like we had to kick and scream and drag Tom Flores, the first minority quarterback in the history of the NFL, and the first Latino head coach and a 2-time Super Bowl winner. He just barely got in, and Hal Plunkett's not in. I don't understand. Too short a time span with the Raiders. He was only with us for like 4 or 5 years, although he won 2 Super Bowls. Like I said, he would beat Philly, and he beat the Redskins. I'd still go with Snake. Because people forget in the Franco game, the ripoff game, where the referees, according to John Madden, went into the dugout of Three Rivers Park and said, Pittsburgh police, do you have the police enough to get us out of here? And they're like, no, we don't have any security. He said, why? They said, why? Because we were about to say that it's not a touchdown and this place is going to go crazy and we need security to get the hell out of here. We don't have security for you. Okay. Touchdown. Let's get the hell out of here. Madden swears that's what happened. But in that game, we lost 7-6. And people forget Stabler scored the only touchdown on a 50-yard scramble up the sidelines. And we thought we'd won the game. And then they get this fluke play, which was against the rules, and we got robbed. But I'd go with Snake. I'd go with Snake as the best Raider quarterback. One more. Get this term seat in there.
Rob, you're wrong about Pete Hexet. Everyone loves him. You've been listening to the wrong people on the guy. He's a stud. He's completely and utterly qualified for the position you're stuck on.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. If you'd seen what he did to Jennifer Griffith, the Fox reporter today, I don't think you'd feel that way. He eviscerated this woman for no reason at all. She's one of the best Pentagon reporters that they have. And he's just, why do you think he wasn't in the room when they put this thing together? He's the Secretary of Defense, and he and Tulsi Gabbard were not in the room when they put Operation Midnight Cowboy or Midnight Dream Ride, or whatever the hell it's called, Midnight Hammer. He wasn't in the room. He's the Secretary, he runs the Pentagon, and he wasn't in the room. And you think he's in good favor with the president? You going crazy? Be gone by Labor Day. And he's the biggest jerk in the world. Biggest jerk in the world. Everybody who works with him has said that. I don't know what you're reading. I'm not reading anything. I'm just watching him. We head into the 4 on this Thursday. Michael Turnipseed joins us next. Don't go anywhere.
So you're heading up the committee? Is Doug Hexeth now?
He's an idiot.
Well, I know he's an idiot. I told you he was an idiot.